Well, good morning or good afternoon, whatever time you guys are listening to this. Welcome back to another episode of the Layman's AI podcast. I am Adam,
And I am Brian.
and today we thought we would talk about one of the hard subjects that nobody's really talking about with a lot of the AI podcasts. We want this to be transparent and clear with all of our listeners. And one of the hard topics we're talking about today is a little bit of the dark side of AI. That is the negative aspects that have come along with its creation that we feel you guys need to know about. And we're also going to give you some tips as to what to do if you're a parent and what to do yourself in terms of trying to prevent some of these bad things that could happen from happening to you. I just really want to point out before we get too into it, we're not doing this to try to scare you. Or try to scare any listener, but we do feel there are things out there that you need to be aware of, and we don't feel there's enough people talking about it. And our goal is to bring this to light for you guys. So,
Yeah, I think you have to talk about the bad things as
mhm.
well as the good things. I mean, we're both passionate about AI. We enjoy it very
Right.
much, but there are bad things that can come with this, like with anything. Any new
Hmm.
technology, anything that comes along, there is a good side, there's a bad side. And I think kind of knowing what the bad side could be is could actually be beneficial because it's hard to talk about these things and it's difficult. But we're here and we're going to discuss some of the issues here. First point we're going to make here, laziness. AI, is it making you lazy? That ultimately, if you ask me, that is up to you. Are you going to use AI to make it yourself lazy? Are you going to get an assignment at work and just say, you know what, I'm gonna let ChatGPT write this essay, send out the email and let it go? Or are you actually going to put in the work? Because eventually, if you write this essay or what have you, and you put in this email, there's going to be follow-up questions, and
Hmm.
there will be more follow-up questions. And if you're using ChatGPT for the follow-up questions, eventually someone is going to call you and talk to you and actually look you in the eye and ask you if you know this, and you are not going to know a thing if you go in this direction. Bad, bad
Hmm.
idea.
Absolutely bad idea. And we've been saying this the whole time. And by the whole time, I don't know what episode we're on, number six, I think.
Number
But with
six.
that said, we've told everybody this whole time, use it as a tool. And it was
Mm-hmm.
recently confirmed by the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, a prominent research institution. It was recently confirmed in a study that reliance on AI tools such as ChatGPT may impair your critical thinking as well as your memory. And I think that's because,
Mm-hmm.
like Brian said, you're relying on it to do the work for you. You're not engaged in the critical thinking aspect of it. And we've been saying this whole time, use it as a tool to assist you, but you are still the one that's in charge. You are still the one responsible for what it's creating. If you submit it on your behalf, you have to make sure that you verify it, validate it, make sure everything is correct. That still doesn't impair your cognitive skills. But when you
Mm-hmm.
ask it to do the work for you, it's been proven in this study. Let's see, it says it reduces brain activity. When you formulate the essays for you, it becomes a very addictive passive behavior. So now you not only are not critically thinking, but it becomes a secondhand passive behavior for you doing a simple essay in college. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that's it blows my mind. I mean, sometimes that people think that they could just get away with this. And, well, I'm gonna say it a million times. I will say it every episode, and I will say it multiple times an episode. A tool. Use it as a
Hmm.
tool. And I have been transparent about my how we use AI to, write the subjects of the podcast, write
Hmm.
the
Yep.
background music and what have you. And when you read the description of each podcast episode, I write that myself when I go to upload it. For those of you that don't know, that's kind of my job offline with this podcast. Is I get to upload it to the websites and what have you. I write the descriptions and everything, and then I ask, Chat. I use Gemini. I use Gemini. You can use ChatGPT. I'm like, look at some grammatical errors and see if there's any way you can improve it.
Right.
And a lot of times I just fix the grammar. It does like a little comma here,
Hmm.
different kind of word here, but you can still tell it's my words. And that's the whole thing right there is if you use it for an essay or what have you, like, the student you caught cheating.
Right.
You knew he wasn't writing that. Everyone knew he wasn't
Oh,
writing that,
absolutely.
but and you it's a tool. I can't stress that enough. I'm going to
Yeah.
keep repeating that. And sorry if I sound like a broken record, but I really don't care. I'm going to keep saying
No,
it.
but I love it. I love that you're telling the truth about this because I think we should admit, yes, I'm using AI as a tool to help improve my grammar. There is
Hmm.
nothing wrong with what you're doing for our description in Podbean or YouTube or whatever it is that
Hmm.
whatever platform you listen to us on. There's nothing wrong with you doing the critical thinking and the actual assignment up front, then asking an AI tool to critique it grammatically or perhaps change out some of the language if it's confusing. There is
Hmm.
nothing wrong with doing that because you have still done the task at hand.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, that's kind of kind of goes into the next point, declining cognitive skills.
yeah.
That's kind of big thing right there.
Hmm.
And when you have these like critical thinking skills, these critical thinking skills are like a muscle. If you don't use it, you lose it. Like
Yes.
I know you were a big weightlifter back in your football glory
There
days.
there was once a time.
There was once a time you were very adamant about your weightlifting. I remember that. And if you stop lifting weights, your muscles deteriorate and everything.
Hmm.
And, if you stop running, you can't, you start to lose that energy. And that's the same thing with your cognitive abilities. And, I'll take this at work and everything. I used to program with a certain software that used, a very, very specific set of rules and everything. And I used to be, second nature to me. I used to know it. I used to get it.
Hmm.
And then I went away for it for a while and I haven't used it in forever. And I looked at it recently, I'm not going to say the other day, and I couldn't remember a thing about it because I haven't seen it in so long. I mean, I
Right.
could have started to study it and everything to get back to it, but that's the same thing. If you use like these, uh, LLMs and all these tools and everything to do all the work for you, you're going to lose this cognitive ability because at some point you need to, understand it. Like, so you're gonna have to talk to a human about
Right.
this.
Right. An example I recently used where I did have it do some of the work for me. We just recently got what's called our climate survey at work, and our climate survey is we survey our staff, our students, and things like that, and ask how are we doing. And we received tons of data from that. So I did ask ChatGPT to run an analysis of the data, which came from anonymous sources. And it did a fine job at that. I verified it. But when I gave my report to my bosses, I said I uploaded this to ChatGPT to get this data from us. And it produced it in a chart that I never would have thought to produce it in, which was really nice. It
Hmm.
was easy for us to see what areas we need to improve and what areas that we are very strong in. And there was nothing wrong with saying that I used it for this part. But the best part about it was I still analyzed the data. It did the mathematical stuff, but I still had to
Hmm.
analyze the results. So it did save me time. It was able to communicate in a good fashion. I gave credit to it, but I still did the critical thinking part of saying, what are our next steps? And we did collaborate on what are our next steps as a result of this data. So there is a way for it to you do some of the work for you without losing any cognitive decline, but you still have to do the
Hmm.
hard part of making it happen.
Yeah, definitely. And I've actually seen a few articles here and there where some authors got busted in their copy and pasting into some of their books
Hmm.
with and it started a headline. It was obviously a headline from ChatGPT or, some kind of LLM that says, okay, now you could put this to give us some more pizzazz or what have you. And then it went to the, next couple chapters and what have you. And to me, that's kind of lazy, not understanding what you're copy and pasting. I mean, copy and paste is like one of the greatest, um, probably the greatest computing advancement you would ever know, but you need to not understand how you copy and paste properly. I mean, you got to understand that and what have you. And I think the big thing is transparency. Like, be transparent as to where you use it. I do my best to say when I'm using AI and what I'm using it for. But if you have that transparency, it's going to go a long way.
Yes, I agree. So to sum up what we've been saying this whole time, we probably do sound like broken records. Use it as a tool, be transparent with it, which actually unfortunately leads us to our next dark side of this. And the fact of the matter is, when these image generators started to come out and OpenAI started to come out, and not just OpenAI, but all these AI tools that we talk about, as many of you can imagine, it immediately started to do, there were some things with exploiting women.
Hmm.
In particular, what's called deep fakes. And a deep fake is that AI can generate a video or an image of a person that looks realistic. I think we've all seen examples of deep fakes. There's always concerns that news are going to run stories of deep fakes, that things that didn't really happen. But unfortunately, it does lead to non-consensual and inappropriate image generation. And sometimes these deep fakes go as too far as creating non-consensual sexual content targeting women. And if you do a Google search or even a Perplexity search on this, you will see many, unfortunately, many news articles, most of which are recent, on how these things are
It's a new
being
thing.
used against women. And it is, I'm sure it's being used against men as well, but
Hmm.
it is seriously concerning that how easy it is to take an image that's online and change it slightly. Yeah, I'll share though. I'm certainly not guilty of. I'm certainly would never do it to do anything to exploit anybody sexually. But I was joking with Brian prior to that. One of the first things I did when I realized ChatGPT updated its image generator was I used it to find ways to make fun of people in my fantasy football league and post it on our private Facebook page, and they got a kick out of it. I didn't do anything inappropriate, but it
Hmm.
was amazing how quick it was to, make fun of. I don't know if you guys remember a few weeks ago we talked about a guy named Punk Number One. It wasn't. He's in my fantasy football league. It wasn't hard for me to make an image of him getting trampled by Cleveland Brown legend Joe Thomas because Punk Number One actually doesn't like Joe Thomas. But that's a whole nother story for another time. Probably deserves its own podcast, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm gonna get Joe T to meet him face to face on that one.
I would love that.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, there's some fun things. Like you could do some fun things. I know a lot of the
Hmm.
big image generators out there, they have safeguards against a lot of that stuff.
Yes.
I kind of, I mean, I'm guilty. I kind of tested it a little bit. I didn't do anyone specific, but I asked it to make j just to kind of test it, and it kicked back to me after an inappropriate request. I just wanted to know the safeguards. I want to be very clear about that.
Hmm.
I do not wish to do this to anybody, and it was nobody specific, but it does have safeguards. Like if you go to any of the major image generators out there, they do, you know, bake that into the code.
Hmm.
But it's only, a matter of time before bad actors with these skills can actually use these exploit you essentially. I was trying to find the words and
Hmm.
everything, and that's something you really got it almost takes like its own investigative task force, in my opinion, to actually like find out, if anybody's doing this. And
Right.
cyber crimes have been a big thing. They've been going up, and now you have this, which is a whole new
A whole
ball game.
nother, and people are using it to blackmail.
Hmm.
I recently read there was a incident where a young lady, a high school aged student, was blackmailed by other students saying either you send us real pictures or we're going to release this picture of you. And they had created a nude image of her using
Hmm.
an AI tool. And that's scary stuff. That's very scary stuff that's out there. And
Yeah.
um,
You got to raise
it's
them. I want to raise kids that don't do stuff like that. I mean, that's
so.
kind of a
I think every
horrible thing.
parent does. I'm certain,
Yeah.
but I do have for those of you who don't know, I do have two sons, one of whom is middle school now, and coming up, I get to have the fun, the talk, as they say, where for
Yeah.
those who don't know what I'm referring to, it's usually the awkward moment where your father walks into your room and starts talking sex with you as if it's really awkward. It's really, I
Uh,
could go into my details when
uh,
my father came into my room to talk to me about it. It was short and to the point. It basically said that I'm unattractive and that I don't have to worry about that, is basically what he said. And then he left the room.
no, fear factor. Okay.
Yeah, a little bit of a fear factor thing. But it's what is terrible to me is I now know that this exists, and when I have this talk with him, I do have to say, by the way, and he may not even know this exists, but he needs to know you cannot go on to AI devices to change images for your own personal use.
Hmm.
It's terrible, but it's an added feature now that parents are going to have to talk to their kids about, including what you post online. Suggestive images could easily be edited now.
Yeah, it's scary because I mean, it used to be a thing online where people would take a celebrity's head and put it on like an adult film star's body and everything and post that around, and it was obviously
It
fake.
was very
I
fake.
mean, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, like
we've all
it,
seen those throughout the years, comedy ones. I mean,
yeah, it was,
we've all seen them, and they were easily fake.
yeah, but now, now these tools are scary, getting scary good,
Hmm.
and I mean. How do you do it? I mean, it's like I mean, everyone wants to have an answer, like more punishments. I mean, that's definitely laws need to be, established with this kind of stuff, and it needs to be its
So
own set of laws.
I'm
Like,
glad you said that because
mhm,
you're leading us right down the right path. The United States government, and this was bipartisan, so this was good. This was both sides agreeing, so they were agreeing.
mhm,
They created the U.S. Take It Down Act, and that passed last month, so May of 2025. It criminalizes the knowing publication or threat of publishing non-consensual, um, intimate imagery, including AI generated deepfakes, and it
mhm,
requires the platform in which they are posted on to remove the content within 48 hours of a valid takedown request.
mhm.
So that's a little vague, but at least there is now legislation for this. And something else that I know has gone on behind the scenes, even though they're all competitors, Google, OpenAI, Meta,
Mhm.
all of them are competitors. They are working together on ways to solve these issues if their tools are being used for it. So there has been collaboration between the companies as they've done this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a step in the right direction. It's just, I mean, the dark web exists,
Yep.
and code gets illegally shared into bad hands and everything. And there's poison pills in code. I've
Mm-hmm.
seen a lot of people. If you don't, a lot of these AI companies, I think if you're using these AI tools and you have like these models and everything, you need to distribute them properly. Um, I know DeepSeek, I think they created their model as an open source, which
Mm-hmm.
I was not a fan of.
They certainly did, and they made it very friendly in terms of the way it communicates back and forth,
mhm.
thus making it easier to prompt and a little easier to communicate and a little more addictive to use.
Huh, okay, yeah, I never used it, but that's not something I like. Open sourcing something like that, because when you get open source, you download it, you put it on a thumb drive.
Hmm.
For I know that's kind of an archaic method of saving files, but you put it on a thumb drive and you put it in your pocket, and nobody knows you have
Yeah,
it anymore, and you distribute it on the dark web, and it can get scary with these
absolutely.
AI tools.
Yeah, especially I know we just said open source, and I don't think we've ever really covered what that means now that I'm thinking
Hmm.
about this. But if I'm here correctly, open source means you can take the AI model and replicate parts of it to do what you need it to do without using the
Yeah,
actual tool. Whereas closed source means you really rely on the tool to use its data that it has to make things happen. I may have
yeah.
misspoken, may have been correct. I don't know. What do you know, Brian?
For the most part, open source code, you'll hear about that is anybody can download it and use it. You just put it out there. There's like GitHubs, which is a
Hmm.
popular file sharing program for people working on projects, and you put it on a public GitHub repository. Anybody can download it, anybody can use it, and there's no copyright. You're just throwing your code out there and saying, "Here, use it. I don't care." And a lot of it's kind of fun. Like you'll have like some calculative code and everything to write calculations or
Hmm.
run calculations on your computer, or there's some video game open source code. I know the most popular one is the Unreal Engine, with
Okay.
the company that makes Fortnite. They have their open source code, and you can use that for financially up to $1 million. That's kind of
Oh,
like it's a limited open source, but I mean that's basically what open source is.
okay.
And an open source AI tool can be very dangerous because if you just allow like these image generators, like we've been talking about, to be open source and open used, and it's only a matter of time before hackers take down those safeguards.
Yes.
And like the safeguards are programmed into it, and hackers, if they get your code, they can take down those safeguards, and now we're in the wild west of this AI exploitative image generation.
Yeah. It is. And so AI image generation, and we wanted to provide some actionable tips for people. There are some steps you can take to protect yourself or talk to your kids about protecting themselves. You can use some of these image poisoning tools, I guess is the way that the term I would use, such as I think it's called Fawkes, Fawkes, or Glaze is another tool.
Hmm.
And before you personally post a photo, it basically makes it much tougher for a person to copy that, save that from your social media sites before they can do anything with it editing wise. So there are some techniques you can do. And then I would encourage everybody, especially if you are, if you're a parent, I would take a look at the Take It Down Act and see how you can go about contacting these AI sites to remove any images that may be out there that are deemed inappropriate by yourself. That if you deem it inappropriate. So with that said, I'd
Yeah.
like to move into another topic of the not so good, and that is personal data exposure and privacy threats. We did talk about DeepSeek, and DeepSeek is a very popular AI tool. I have used it, but I'll explain when we get to the actionable step what I did to make sure I use it. But DeepSeek, when it first came out, because it's open source, DeepSeek was heavily criticized because it really, when in order to sign up for an account, it wants all your data in that email account.
Hmm. Yeah, I created a fake email for testing it out, and
And bingo, that's our actionable tip. Yes.
yeah,
That fake
I
emails are your friends in the AI world when testing things out. Yes.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, exposed database image generator. I'm just kind of looking at some of our points here.
Yeah, there was a
I
case study that the by going into the exposed databases, they found a ton of AI generated images that were meant for privacy. They weren't even
okay.
negative. They weren't necessarily sexually explicit or anything, but it found them, and it was not hard for this uh, data to be. It wasn't hard for the data to be found, apparently, which is a pretty serious concern.
Yeah, that's yeah, that leads into a lot of data mining, especially with AI. Like if you're like telling AI to find a very specific data, because you can create a model with your AI code, and you can have it look for something very specific,
Hmm.
any kind of data you want, and you could have it run across the internet and just mine data like really quickly and everything. And firewalls, I think, are your friend.
Hmm.
Firewalls, cybersecurity, VPNs. If you don't know what a VPN is, it's a virtual private network. Basically, you kind of log into, I kind of put it into an exaggerated firewall.
Okay.
People use like VPNs, like if I'm browsing the internet and somebody tries to see what I'm looking at, they have to go through a couple different routers and they can't like really find me too well.
Hmm.
VPNs are a very good thing to use if you're using any kind of how should I say, like sensitive data or sensitive software or anything. I know at work, when I work from home, I have to log in through a VPN. And my computer, my laptop that I take home is, programmed to directly connect to that VPN. So they got the two-step authentication to get into the VPN. And we're kind of going off topic of AI, really.
No, but
But
it's still interesting because we need to know
yeah.
the VPN is associated with how we're going to catch people doing this stuff, and it also is
Hmm.
how we're going to help resolve the issue.
Yeah,
So it's
I mean, VPN's more like a self-protection.
mhm.
Catching people, it's going to take it's going to take a whole new like federal uh task force police. I know
Right.
that's kind of a sensitive subject, more feds looking at you,
More feds looking at
but
your computer. I mean, and
yeah,
then
yeah,
how do you monitor that? That's a whole
yeah.
that I feel like we would have to have a guest on to explain how to really stop some of this for
Yeah,
us.
but it's what's going to be needed is like more actionable, law enforcement to like find these bad actors and everything.
Right.
And yeah, it sounds like kind of a scary thing, I'd say. I'm trying to find the right words to put it in, but it's it's what's going to be needed, and
Yeah.
you know, especially when you can like generate images or fake deep fakes and what have you, and you have, you know, all these malicious actors creating these things using AI tools.
Yeah.
You know, now you're talking about cyber crime rings and everything. And yeah, it could be pretty scary out there. I'm not trying to scare people. It's possible to protect yourself. I think the other way to protect myself or yourself or anybody, and I know I'm kind of rambling here, but don't put too many personal things on the internet. Like don't put too much of your
Agreed.
personal life on social media. I know some people like have you know, desperation. They're sitting there, they want to talk to somebody, so they throw it out there. Try to keep it to direct messages instead of like your general page and everything like that.
Yes.
It's just don't get too personal, is what I would say.
I agree, and I can't speak enough for the use of the dummy email. And by a dummy email, we mean an email that doesn't necessarily have your name on it. I actually have several, and two of which are strictly used for testing AI. So if the AI tool wants access to my data and it won't work unless it accesses it, I say go ahead, and chances are it doesn't get any of my personal information, which is pretty important to me. I know
Hmm.
when we talked about the data exposure coming from the education world, that has been a recent concern amongst educators is how do we protect our student data because now all your data for your students, it's not located in a folder in a filing cabinet like it was in the 80s, where if I need the information on a kid, like their address, I pull out the folder, I look up the phone number. No, all of that is housed online now. And there
Hmm.
are cyber attacks on school districts, and they usually pay a ransom. And with, I know that doesn't have much to do with AI, but AI has complicated that a little more because kids are more vulnerable to making mistakes with AI.
Yeah, it's good. They don't know the consequences.
That's correct.
Because that's like kind of the thing, like right there. And I know my daughter has a tablet. She uses it for some games and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
you know, people can judge me what they want, like giving my, you know, 7-year-old a tablet or what have you. But I will say I have full control over that thing.
Correct. Yeah.
I can open my phone and I can block apps. I have to approve everything she downloads. I have to approve everything she does. I can lock her out if I want to. Like if she's not listening to me, I just lock the tablet and get her to listen to me.
Hmm.
And you know, I think like one big thing, you know, especially like protecting yourself and protecting your data is doing things at the device level. I know a lot of you know, people are talking about, you know, pornography online, you know, kids are having access to it and they're going after, you know, the companies, which, you know, not trying to defend them, but, you know, First Amendment, you know, it exists and you're not gonna, like, you're not gonna win that battle.
Hmm.
And they even say, you know, device level age verification is the way to go. And, you know, maybe I'll get some heat from somebody for agreeing with that, but it's the truth. You have to have like device
Oh,
level protections. And when you have like the hardware at the device level protections, that's another, you know, angle that, you know, you can
right.
go and that's something you can call on the big tech companies to do.
I agree, and I'll share with you, Brian, as a parent. Brian and I did not discuss this prior to this episode. My oldest is he's in middle school, and guess what? He can't download an app without my permission. It's been the same
Hmm.
thing. Yeah, I know what's on his phone. I know what he's going through. I know some of the tricks he tries to use to go around us. Fortunately, it's for good intentions. Usually, it's not anything terrible. It's actually kind of innocent stuff. It's kind of like he just doesn't want us tracking the time on there so he can watch his videos of hockey highlights and things like that because he only gets so
No,
much
okay.
time on YouTube. So if that's the biggest problem I've got a good situation on my hands.
Yeah.
So what we're talking right now is what are things parents can do to protect your kids from some of these AI things. And I think number one is we talked about monitoring. Both Brian and I have examples how we monitor how our students, wow, we monitor how our children are using their devices, what they're using it, how they're using it. We definitely monitor the time of which our kids are on the devices because I think we all know too much time is not necessarily good for kids.
Yeah, yeah, you definitely need you need a limit. You need to limit
Yep.
them as to, you know, how much you can they can be on there. You need to understand what they're downloading. Because they'll see something like on a YouTube kids commercial or what have you, or
Yeah.
they'll hear from their friends be like, "Oh, I want to use this," and then you look at it, it's like it's not quite what you think,
Yep.
and you don't need to be using this, and that's kind of keep yourself informed, like watch what they're doing, understand like what apps they're downloading and everything, and I think another thing you can do is have these open conversations about it.
Amen.
That's kind of,
Amen.
isn't they're uncomfortable, but if you don't have the uncomfortable conversations now,
Yep.
there's going to be a lot of uncomfortable, much more uncomfortable things happening down the road.
Absolutely.
So
I cannot stress that
communication.
enough. Even former educator, I would tell, talk to your kids. You're a parent. There is not a darn thing wrong if you walk into the room and say, "Why did you try to download this app? What is this app?" You don't even need to be accusatory
Hmm.
of it. You could just say, "What's this app? Why do you need it? And how can I help?" And if they're not
Yeah.
telling you what it is up front, you get that vibe. You're not telling me everything. That's your job to
Hmm.
research it yourself. It won't take you long. Simple Google search will take care of that.
Hmm.
It doesn't take
Exactly.
you long to do that. And there's nothing
Or you
wrong with
can ask
saying,
AI.
yeah, you can ask, yeah, Perplexity AI, go on ChatGPT, Gemini. Hey, what is this app? What does it do? Why would a teenager need this app? That's a good
Yeah.
use of it right there. There you go. Now you're using AI to help protect your child. But
Yeah.
it borders like the bottom line is you have to go talk to them and let them know that
Hmm.
there's these dangers out there that when you're downloading these apps, they get your data. And that's
Hmm.
not good if they get your data. And
Yeah.
not too many. Some of there's no way around it. There's no way around it sometimes.
Yeah, I
Uh,
know, I had a point going in there. Try to keep their data limited, I would say. Like I know there's a lot of apps I block on
mhm.
her tablet and what have you, and obviously no financial apps are going to be on that tablet at all or anything. We're not going to have any random chat bot apps or anything
Yes.
instant messaging or anything like that. But yeah, if you have these conversations and try to talk about it and try to understand what's going on, and you need to keep eye on apps that aren't what they seem to be, I should say. And I
Right.
know there's some apps where it looks like, oh, it's to look at houses, and the next thing you know, it's to hide photos in a location that you can't find or anything like that. So
Uh-huh.
you have to I can't think of any of the apps off the top of my head, but I know there's apps like that that
There are.
disguise what they actually are. So I
There
think you really need to find that.
there is. I've busted what appeared to be, this is my high school principal in me, more of an
Hmm.
assistant principal. I have busted kids using a chat feature that looked as if it was a currency conversion app.
Oh, okay.
And how we discovered it was we asked the kid, "Why do you have a currency conversion app right next to your messages?"
Huh.
And
Okay.
he panicked
Busted.
and showed us what it was, and it was minor, but it was basically, how do we
Yep.
meet up to do some not so nice things in the bathroom?
Yeah.
And by nice things in the bathroom, I mean vape. If you don't know, there's a vaping epidemic, which is a whole nother issue that needs to be talked
Yeah,
about. But
that's
one other tip I'm going to tell parents that I've learned over the years: your kids are going to watch YouTube. It's normal.
hmm Yep.
There's a lot of hidden stuff
I
in
know about
YouTube.
that.
Yeah, uh,
Oh, it is scary of like
very.
they'll be baking a cake and next thing you know I'm not going to get specific, but there's just some message that it's like I'm like, whoa, this is not what we need to be watching. And we have had to block channel. My wife and I
Yeah,
had to block channels like
yeah.
that. And that's kind of the, whole thing about YouTube. This is also getting outside of AI, but maybe like an AI tool that can identify, those types of channels that aren't what they seem. Yeah, maybe
Oh,
that's
that'd
a
be a
million
good one.
dollar idea.
Maybe there's an idea we just gave
Yeah,
somebody.
there's $1 million idea right there.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Contact me. We'll chat about that. But
I
yeah,
will
that's something to look out for.
I will share as a parent of older kids and as a former principal again. We were at an admin conference and we saw this video on YouTube that was basically a Twitch, which is a recording of a video game of a student playing a popular game where it's basically soccer with monster trucks. I forget what that.
Oh,
Demolition League or something like that.
Rocket League.
Rocket League.
Rocket
Thank
League.
you.
Yeah, my brother was big into
Yeah,
that game.
it's a fun game. It's soccer with monster trucks. It looks really cool. But in the middle of it during this kid's Twitch, he starts telling you how to hide a vape pen very thoroughly in
Oh
the
boy.
Twitch in the middle of it, and YouTube would have never have picked it up because of the way it did the timing of it. It was
Oh
this is
yeah.
how you hide it inside of your hoodie so that it's inside the pen so you could do it in class. And I'm going, oh my goodness, it was right there. How did kids know to go to it? I looked at the title. I go, it looks like a kid playing a video game, but this kid had over 80,000 views in a couple days.
Mm.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
So
that's pretty intense right there. And yeah, I think man, I mean it's all these like kind of scary things, but parents what else can parents do really? I think just be aware. Use the
yeah.
use the human brain essentially, because understand what AI tools are out there. How can your child be exploited by AI, and just kind of like identify these things. And if you use the human brain, human brain is still a very capable thing as of right now. Unless you
Hmm.
use AI for everything, then it destroys your cognitive abilities. So, yeah, keep an eye out, like keep watch, keep alert,
Hmm.
and try to keep up on the latest uh kind of trends as people trying to,
Yeah.
exploit and everything.
Yep. Don't be afraid to talk to your kid. Ask questions. Ask them to show you what's going on. And I do believe there are parent forums for things like this on social media. This is where social media can be used in a good way.
Yeah.
But again, it starts with the conversation, and as Brian and I have said a million times, use it as a tool, not as not as the doing it for you.
Hmm.
Um, and kind of summarizing and reflection, I'm thinking of what are some other things listeners can do for like calls of action, and you can press your lawmakers for a little bit more AI laws, but to their
Hmm.
defense, I think they did a good job in May because it was bipartisan and that was at the federal level. I
Hmm.
think some lawmakers are still trying to figure out what AI is and what the capabilities are because it is still relatively on the new side. So if
Yeah.
you're going to press them, do it in a pretty mature way, and give some leniency and understanding that they may
Please
not know
try.
all the problems that exist. Just try. Yeah,
Please try to
try.
be nice. Please try to
Try
be
to be
nice.
nice.
But
It's not,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I think comprehensive legislation is going to be one of the big things that needs to
Hmm.
happen. They were talking still to this day. The last comprehensive internet legislation passed was in '95, back when dial-up internet was a thing, or
Yeah,
like
1995 was a long time
yeah,
ago.
it was the 90s. I'm saying 95 because I think that's I always go back to the 95 Indians in my
Amen.
mind
Best team that
there.
never won a title.
Exactly. But we're not going to get into that heartbreak.
No.
But yeah, I think like comprehensive legislation is beyond overdue. There's like so many different things. Like the internet used to be a novelty. It used to be like, just like kind of, yeah, whatever. I'm gonna go to hamster dance and watch a bunch of hamsters dance across the screen, or
Oh, that was so
I'm gonna.
funny.
It used to be the coolest thing, and there used to be 20 different search engines. I was in high school. I was very adamant that Dogpile was going to be the dominant search
Dog
engine.
pile. Wow.
Yeah.
I forgot about that one.
Yes, yeah, nobody knows about it anymore, and everyone's like, "No, it's Google." I'm like, "No, Dogpile's going to beat Google," and I'm eating my shoe right now, because of that. But like point being, it's beyond overdue, I think, to
Yeah.
actually pass comprehensive legislation because even now, like how can you go a week without using the internet in your life? It's really
Oh, that's hard.
not possible. It's really like you really can't do it. So you have to, you know, find ways to legislate somehow. I mean, we can go on forever about that, really.
Hmm. Yeah, and something we haven't touched on that I think would be a part of the summary is just keep an eye on what you're doing with AI. If everybody interacted responsibly with it, which we know is not going to happen,
Mm.
but if the more people that do interact responsibly with it, the better off it is. Because I do believe, even though this episode was a little more on the darker side of what AI has created and what it's doing and what some small steps we could take to help it, overall, I'm still very optimistic about AI's uses and capabilities. I
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there's so many positive things.
yeah.
Don't let the dark days, make you forget
Mhm.
about the bright days, I'd say.
That's a great way
Um,
to. That's a great
yeah,
send off.
yeah, exactly. And, just kind of go through it. You know, write your congressman, say you want comprehensive internet legislation because AI is creating a whole new world of insanity, or potential insanity, I should say.
Hmm.
Um, don't depend on it. It is a tool. I'm going to be broken record for this as long as I have this podcast. It's a
Yeah.
tool. It is not your assistant, or it is your assistant. Well, actually, I'm kind of flip-flopping on fumbling over myself a little bit, but
Well,
it's not an assistant. I
it's
I don't
not.
think it's an assistant.
It can assist you, but you are ultimately responsible for the content that it creates that you decide
Hmm.
to use.
Yes.
And if it creates content and you don't use it, guess what? There, that's
Hmm.
AI's content. But as soon as you take that image and you download it or you use it to make fun of somebody, you're responsible for
Hmm.
that action.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's your tool. It is something in your toolbox. Put it next between your hammer and your screwdriver, and
Yep.
pull it out when you need to. And protect yourself, I think, is like kind of the ultimate takeaway. Don't put too much online.
Yep.
Like monitor what your kids are doing, and you know um, other sort of cybersecurity type actions you could take. We've talked about it. Your own personal firewall.
Hmm.
Have like unmanageable passwords or illegible passwords, I should say, is one of the big things. And VPNs, personal firewalls. See what you could do to protect yourself. And that's really kind of the big send off right here is just keep those three things in mind. And yeah, for that, I think we're going to be wrapping this up here today. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the podcast, taking the time. The listening to the Layman's AI. My name is Brian,
And I am Adam.
and we will see you next time.